The rain came down like punishment from the heavens, cold, unrelenting, and dark as ash. The city was a blur of headlights and shadows, and every drop seemed to echo off the alley walls like a warning. Emily Carter pulled her hoodie tighter, gripping a paper bag of day-old pastries from the cafe where she worked part-time. She was soaked, broke, and exhausted, not just physically, but in that quiet, invisible way that creeps in after too many failures and too few chances. She didn't know it yet, but her life was about to change. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. As she turned into the alley near her rundown apartment in Eastbrook, she froze. There, slumped against a graffiti-stained wall, was a man. His coat was shredded. His hands trembled in the cold. A paper cup sat beside him, empty. He looked forgotten. People passed by without a glance, as if he were a pile of trash. Emily hesitated. She had barely enough to survive herself. But something in the man's eyes, dim, glassy, yet painfully human, held her there. She crouched down and placed the bag of pastries in his lap. "You should eat something," she said softly. "It's not much, but it's warm." The man looked up, his voice raspy. "Why?" She blinked. "Why what?" "Why help me?" he asked, his voice trembling, not from cold, but from disbelief. Emily smiled gently. "Because I've been hungry before. And because if I walked past you, who would stop?" He stared at her for a long moment, like she had said something he'd forgotten was even possible. She wrapped her scarf around his neck, her only good one, and stood. "Take care, okay?" He didn't respond. But as she walked away, he whispered something the rain almost swallowed. "Thank you." 3 days passed. The man vanished. No one had seen him. In his place, folded neatly on the same bench where he once lay, was the scarf. Tucked beneath it, a scrap of paper. "Thank you for reminding me what humanity looks like." Emily's heart ached. But life moved on. She returned to a grind, endless rejections, resume emails sent into voids, and late shifts wiping down cafe tables. Her dreams of working in media were fading into distant noise. Then, it happened. Late one night, as she closed the cafe, a man in a charcoal suit stepped in. Sharp eyes. Calm, robotic movements. "Are you Emily Carter?" he asked. She nodded, unsure. The man placed an envelope on the counter. "Someone would like to offer you an opportunity. A position. At Sterling Financial Group." Emily almost laughed. "What kind of scam is this?" "No scam, Miss Carter. The person says," the man paused. "Hire her not because of her skills, but because of her soul." She froze. That phrase. The exact words she said to the homeless man. "What?" The man simply nodded and walked out, leaving her with the envelope. Inside, an offer letter. Full-time position. Executive assistant. Base salary, 6 figures. Company, one of the largest financial powerhouses in the country. She thought it was a prank. Until a black car picked her up the next morning. Her new office was on the 37th floor of a downtown skyscraper. Glass walls. Views of the Hudson River. Coffee brewed by machines that cost more than her rent. But she never met her boss. Only emails. Only cryptic messages. Then one day, she found a handwritten note on her desk. "If you found out the man you helped wasn't poor, but a man who owned cities, would you regret it?" Beneath it, an old photo. Her breath hitched. It was him. The homeless man. But now, in the photo, he was dressed in a tailored tuxedo, stepping out of a luxury jet, with a discreet entourage in the background. It didn't make sense. How could he be rich? No. Not rich. Powerful. She couldn't sleep that night. She found herself Googling keywords. Searching archives. Digging. A name kept coming up, Nicholas Ashford, founder of Sterling Financial. Reclusive. Billionaire. Disappeared from public life after his wife's mysterious death 2 years ago. Something inside her snapped into place. The next day, she took leave from work and went to an address printed faintly on the back of the photo, an old estate in Westfield. The iron gate creaked open. A woman in a maid's uniform greeted her. "Miss Carter. Mr. Ashford has been expecting you." Emily's stomach dropped. She was led through a long marble hallway to a vast study with floor-to-ceiling windows. And there he was, sitting by the fire in a crisp black suit, eyes fixed on the flames. He turned. And it was him. The man from the alley. But now his eyes were clear. Sharper. Sadder. "Hello again," he said. "You saved me once, before you even knew who I was." Emily couldn't speak. "Come," he said, standing slowly. "There's something you need to know. Something about who I am." He paused. "And who you really are, Emily." Emily stared at the man she thought she had once saved. Only now, with the firelight flickering against his angular face, she wasn't sure who had saved whom. Nicholas Ashford. A name synonymous with power, wealth, and tragedy. The kind of man who lived in shadows and reshaped industries with a nod. The man who'd vanished from public view after his wife's death until now. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit, Emily. This will take time." She hesitated, then lowered herself onto the leather seat, the silence between them tightening like a rope. Nicholas didn't look at her as he spoke. 2 years ago, my wife died. They said it was an accident. A car crash on a rainy night. But that wasn't true. His voice cracked. I sent her to die. Emily's breath caught. Her mouth went dry. I was consumed with greed. With building an empire. I married her for strategy. I loved her too late. He looked up, and for the first time, she saw the hollow grief beneath his calm exterior. And when she found out, she left me. A pause. And that night, she drove straight into the river. The room fell into silence. The only sound was the fire, crackling like the edges of a burning confession. I lost everything that night. Not just my wife. I lost whatever was left of my soul. He leaned back. So I ran. Disappeared. Sold my homes. Cut ties. Lived on the streets. For punishment. For clarity. I needed to know what it felt like to be nothing. Emily's hands trembled in her lap. And then. I met you. His gaze softened. You didn't see a billionaire. You saw a broken man. And still, you gave. Her voice was barely a whisper. Why me? Nicholas stood slowly, walked to the window. Because there's something you don't know, something she never got to tell you. Emily's heart began to pound. She. Nicholas turned. My wife's name was Sarah Bennett. The name hit Emily like a punch to the chest. My mother's name was Sarah Bennett. Silence. Nicholas nodded slowly. She was my wife, Emily. And you? No, Emily stood, shaking her head. No, that's not possible. She had you before we married. She never told me who your father was. She said she left that life behind. I found out too late. I hired investigators after her death. They found you. Emily's knees gave out, and she sank back into the chair. I was going to come to you sooner. But I was ashamed. You reminded me too much of her. The same fire. The same sadness in your eyes. She stared at him, tears blurring her vision. Why didn't she tell me? Why didn't she ever say anything? Nicholas sighed. Because I broke her. His voice was quieter now. And she wanted to keep you far from my world. Far from the poison I carry. Emily buried her face in her hands. Everything she believed about her life, her mother, her past, even her own name, was beginning to unravel. And then Nicholas said the one thing that changed everything. But now you're part of it. She looked up, stunned. I've named you my sole heir. No, Emily snapped. You can't. I don't want your money. I don't want your guilt. Nicholas smiled faintly. It's not guilt, Emily. It's a second chance. For both of us. He stepped forward, his voice low. But there are people who don't want you to have it. People who will do anything to stop you. I made enemies. And they are watching. Emily's breath hitched. What do you mean, watching? Nicholas glanced toward the window. And that's when she saw it. A red laser dot moving slowly across his chest. Get down, she screamed. But it was too late. The window shattered. A gunshot cracked through the room like thunder. Nicholas dropped. Blood bloomed across his shirt like a spreading shadow. Emily froze. Her world shattered in an instant. Security stormed in. Alarms blared. But all Emily could hear was the silence in her head, the same silence that swallowed her mother, now reaching for her. Nicholas was rushed into an ambulance. She sat in the back beside him, pressing down on the wound, trying to keep him awake. He gripped her hand, weakly. There's a safe under my study floor. His voice faded. It is everything, the truth, trust no one. Then his hand went limp. The machines beeped wildly. And Emily Carter became the girl at the center of a billion-dollar secret. A girl who had no idea what kind of hell she had just inherited. The hospital was swarming with security. Nicholas Ashford had survived the gunshot, barely. But he was unconscious, in critical condition, and under heavy protection. The doctors said the bullet had missed his heart by millimeters. A miracle. But they couldn't promise he'd wake up. Emily sat in the waiting room, her hands still stained with his blood. She hadn't spoken a word since they brought him in. Everything inside her was burning, unraveling. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was the daughter of the man everyone either feared or wanted dead. A soft voice broke her trance. Miss Carter. I'm Agent Ruiz. FBI. A tall woman with sharp eyes and a badge approached, flanked by a younger officer. Emily stood, dizzy. Is he going to be okay? She asked. Ruiz didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out a file. You say you are his assistant. But Nicholas Ashford listed no family. No known children. Yet somehow, in the past 2 weeks, he rewrote his entire will. Named you as sole heir. Control of Sterling Financial. Properties. Offshore accounts. His board of directors is panicking. And his enemies, well. She leaned in. They are probably the ones who pulled the trigger. Emily stared at her. I didn't ask for any of this. Ruiz nodded. Doesn't matter. You have it now. Which means you're a target. A silence stretched between them. Was it a hit? Emily asked quietly. Ruiz hesitated. We are investigating. But from the angle, the precision, this wasn't a robbery. Someone wanted him dead. And they are going to want you silenced too. Emily's stomach twisted. She couldn't breathe. That night, under police escort, she returned to Nicholas' estate. Every step up the marble staircase felt like walking into someone else's life. But his voice still echoed in her mind. There's a safe under the study floor, the truth. She waited until the guards were distracted. At 2:47 a.m., Emily crept into the study. The fire had long died out, and moonlight spilled through the tall windows. She dropped to her knees, feeling along the floorboards. And then, click. One panel lifted slightly. Beneath it, a biometric safe, blinking red. She held her breath. Reached in her coat pocket, the hand Nicholas had squeezed during the ambulance ride had left something behind. A USB stick. She inserted it into the drive. The lock clicked open. Inside, stacks of documents. A flash drive. A photograph. She pulled out the photo first. It was of her mother. Sarah Bennett, smiling, holding baby Emily. But next to her was a man. Not Nicholas. Emily's blood froze. The man's face was scarred. Cold. Ruthless. Handwritten on the back. Caleb Voss. The real father. Emily's heart stopped. Nicholas wasn't her biological father. And the man who was looked like a ghost from a nightmare. There were more files. Voss Global Defense contracts. Illegal arms deals. Civilian massacres. Confidential witness escape. Name, Sarah Bennett. Alias, Sarah Carter. Protective relocation ordered. Emily dropped the file. Her mother hadn't just been running from love. She had been hiding from a monster. Her real father was a war criminal. Nicholas had tried to protect her from the truth. And now, whoever shot him probably worked for Caleb Voss. She plugged in the flash drive. Hundreds of encrypted documents. But one folder stood out. Project Fenry. She clicked it open. What she saw made her blood run cold. Blueprints. Weapons. Prototype schematics for bioenhanced soldiers. Signed contracts between Voss Global and rogue states. Billions in shadow funding. A secret war. And Nicholas had all of it. Emily's hands shook. He had built a case. A complete takedown. But he never got the chance to deliver it. Now it was in her hands. A loud bang shattered the silence. Emily jumped. Footsteps. Heavy. Fast. Coming from downstairs. The security team. No. Too quiet. Too careful. She grabbed the flash drive and slipped it into her sock, just as the study doors burst open. Two men in black rushed in, face masks, no words. She darted behind the desk, heart slamming. A bullet tore into the wood. They weren't here to search. They were here to kill her. She ran. Down the hallway, down the staircase, ducking under the railing. A vase shattered inches from her head. She didn't scream. Couldn't. Just move. She threw herself into the garage. Slammed the panic button. Alarms exploded. The men retreated, fading into the night. Sirens wailed in the distance. By the time the FBI and local cops arrived, she was curled in the corner, hugging her knees, whispering. They know I have it, they know. Emily Carter was no longer just an ordinary girl. She was the keeper of a secret that could take down governments. And somewhere in the dark, Caleb Voss just found out his daughter was alive. The motel room was damp. Smelled like mildew and regret. Emily hadn't slept in over 30 hours. Her hands were still trembling, her thoughts spinning like a hurricane. She kept glancing at the door, even though she had jammed a chair under the knob and pushed a dresser against it. The USB stick pressed against her ankle like a ticking bomb. Outside, rain fell in sheets, just like the night she first met Nicholas. Only now, there was no kindness left in the world, only the sound of boots in the dark and the knowledge that she was being hunted. She had burned her phone. Paid cash. Bought a hoodie 3 sizes too big and hid her hair under a beanie. And still, they would find her. Because her father was Caleb Voss. And Caleb Voss never lost what belonged to him. She didn't know how long she had before they traced her. Hours, maybe. Days if she was lucky. But she wasn't running anymore. She was going to finish what Nicholas started. The next morning, she made her way to a rundown library on the edge of a dying town, the kind of place where no one asked questions and the computers were old enough to still boot from USB. She inserted the flash drive, breath held. Project Fenry loaded instantly. There were folders, one for every continent. Africa. Asia. South America. Each one contained blueprints, reports, and confidential memos. Emily opened the file labeled Operations, Terminated Witnesses. Names. Faces. People like her mother. All dead. All silenced. Except one. A name, Dr. Lila Stein. Status, missing. Last seen, Zurich, Switzerland. Emily leaned back. Zurich. A bioweapons expert. One of the original engineers on the Fenry project. If anyone knew how to destroy this, it was her. She made a decision. She was going to Switzerland. But before she could move, a voice whispered from behind the bookshelf. You're digging into graves, Miss Carter. Emily spun around. A man in a military-style coat stepped forward, hands raised. Salt and pepper hair. Scar along his jawline. eyes like cold steel. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said calmly. "Name's Ethan Vale. Used to be military intelligence. Until I found out who I was working for." She didn't trust him. Not even a little. But then he said the name. "Nicholas Ashford sent me." Her blood ran cold. "He had a contingency plan," Ethan said, lowering his voice. "If he ever disappeared, I was supposed to find you. Help you vanish. Help you burn Voss to the ground." He handed her a keycard. "Locker 108. Penn Station. Whatever you do, don't open it here." Emily took the keycard, her fingers trembling. Ethan looked over his shoulder. "They are watching every airport, every credit card, every inch of the web. You've got one shot to get out of this country." Emily looked at him, her voice hollow. "Why help me?" He hesitated. "Because I failed your mother. And Nicholas. And maybe. I don't want to fail you." That night, under cover of darkness, Emily boarded a Greyhound bus heading north. She changed buses 3 times. Never looked back. By the time she reached Penn Station, the keycard felt like a razor blade in her hand. Locker 108. She found it between a vending machine and a newspaper stand. The bag inside was heavy. Inside, a burner phone. $50,000 in untraceable cash. A new passport. Name, Emilia Voss. She almost dropped it. She was being forced to become the thing she feared most, his daughter. At the bottom of the bag was a note, handwritten. "If you're reading this, then Nicholas is gone. Zurich. Dr. Lila Stein. Don't trust the embassy. Don't trust the police. And never say your real name." The burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message. "They are in the station. Run." Her heart stopped. She grabbed the bag and bolted. 2 men in suits scanned the terminal, earpieces glowing under their collars. One turned. Made eye contact. "Hey." She ran. Through the crowd. Down the stairs. Onto the subway. The doors closed just as one of them lunged. She collapsed into a seat, gasping. A mother and child watched her, wide-eyed. She forced a smile. Looked away. Somewhere, Caleb Voss had just lost her trail. For now. That night, on a red-eye flight out of a small airport in Vermont using her fake identity, Emily Carter left the United States. But the ghost of who she had been stayed behind. And in Zurich, a woman who hadn't spoken to anyone in 7 years. Dr. Lila Stein was already packing a suitcase. She had known this day would come. The day Voss's daughter came looking for answers. Zurich was ice and silence. The snow fell in soft sheets, blanketing the world in white as Emily stepped off the train into the heart of Switzerland. Her breath curled into the air like smoke. She clutched her fake passport tighter. Emilia Voss. Every time she saw the name, her stomach turned. She checked the address scrawled on the back of Ethan Vale's note, an old district near the edge of the city where the glass towers gave way to cobblestone and history. She followed winding alleys and half-frozen canals until she reached it. Number 47 Kramgasse. A 3-story townhouse, dark windows, nothing to suggest anything but dust and forgotten books. She rang the bell once. No answer. She knocked harder. Still nothing. Just as she was about to turn away, the door creaked open. A woman peered through the gap, no older than 50, but her eyes were cracked glass, sharp, fragile, and hiding too much. "Emily?" she asked, her voice quiet, uncertain. Emily froze. "You know who I am?" The woman nodded slowly. "Of course I do. I helped deliver you." Emily's knees almost gave out. "Come inside." Quickly, the woman said, pulling her in and bolting the door behind them. Dr. Lila Stein was nothing like Emily expected. She wore woolen gloves inside. She spoke slowly, cautiously, and glanced out the windows every few seconds like the ghosts were real. "I've been waiting for you," she said. "Ever since Sarah ran. I knew the day would come when you'd appear." They sat in a narrow room filled with dusty shelves and papers pinned to the walls. It looked less like a home and more like a bunker for a war no one else knew was happening. Emily stared at her. You worked with him? With my real father? Lila didn't blink. Caleb Voss doesn't have children. He has successors. You were supposed to be one. Emily felt sick. Sarah found out what we were building. Project Fenry. The prototypes. The children. The neurological inhibitors. She was horrified. She took you and ran. Nicholas helped her disappear. Faked her death more than once. Emily's voice shook. What exactly is Project Fenry? Lila leaned forward. A global program. Hidden in plain sight. Master's research in military enhancement, but it's worse than that. She tapped a stack of files on the table. Opened one. Emily leaned over. Photos of children. Wired to machines. Eyes glazed. Blood pooling from their noses. They are creating controllable soldiers. Soldiers who don't question orders. Who can be shut down remotely. Programmed like machines. Fenry was only the beginning. They've moved on to. She hesitated. To the Helix Protocol. Emily's throat tightened. What is that? Lila turned to a monitor. Inserted a drive. A video played. A lab. Clean, clinical, bright. A girl, maybe 12, standing still. Wires coming out of her spine. A voice off camera, engage suppression command. The girl's body jerked, then froze. Her eyes rolled back. And then she stopped moving entirely. As if someone had unplugged her soul. Emily backed away. Jesus. They've perfected it, Lila whispered. The ability to turn a person off like a switch. Imagine armies of people who can't say no. Activists. Journalists. Dissidents. All one command away from silence. Emily looked at her, horrified. And Voss built this? Lila nodded. With help. From governments. From corporations. From monsters in suits. Emily stepped back. So what am I supposed to do? I'm just some girl with a fake passport and a target on my back. No, Lila said, standing. You're not just some girl. You're the only one with the files Nicholas compiled. You're the last name Voss didn't erase. She walked to a safe behind the bookshelf, opened it, and pulled out a box. Inside, a small silver capsule. This, she said, is a virus. Emily's eyes widened. A cyber virus. Designed by Nicholas before he disappeared. It can destroy the core servers that host Fenry and Helix. Wipe everything. But it has to be injected directly. Into the mainframe. In Berlin. Emily swallowed hard. I've never been to Berlin. Lila looked at her, dead serious. You'll die if you go. Emily met her gaze. Then I'll die trying. That night, while Lila slept, Emily stared out the window. She thought of her mother. Of Nicholas. Of all the people who had vanished trying to stop Voss. And now she was going into the heart of the monster. Alone. But not afraid. Somewhere in a private jet above Europe. Caleb Voss poured a drink. Stared at the monitor. Emily's face appeared, grainy surveillance footage from Zurich. He smiled faintly. She's on the move. His bodyguard looked over. You want her alive? Voss drank slowly. Alive. For now. A pause. But if she reaches Berlin, burn everything. Berlin was colder than Zurich, not in temperature, but in atmosphere. The people, the buildings, the air. Everything felt grey. Like a city that had learned to hide the worst of itself behind silence and glass. Emily stood in front of an old train station in the industrial district, abandoned for decades, or so it was said. To the naked eye, it was just another rotting relic of the Cold War. But Lila had told her the truth. Beneath this place is Facility 93. It's where they control everything. The servers. The experiments. The command center of Project Helix. And now, Emily had come to destroy it. In her backpack, a burner phone, a forged ID badge, and the virus capsule Nicholas had created. In her heart, fire. But also fear. The kind that doesn't shake your hands anymore, just coils around your spine and waits. She checked her watch. 2:38 a.m. Showtime. The entrance was hidden beneath a collapsed rail tunnel. Concrete sealed over steel. But Emily found the maintenance hatch Lila had described, half covered by a rusted oil drum. She pushed it aside and squeezed into darkness. The tunnel smelled of copper and old blood. A few feet in, a red light scanned her face. Identify. She held up the stolen ID badge, her voice low. Lieutenant Eva Reese. Clearance E4. The light blinked, then turned green. Welcome, Lieutenant Reese. She exhaled. The door hissed open. She stepped inside. Facility 93 looked nothing like what she expected. No torture chambers. No mad scientists. Just efficiency. Fluorescent lights hummed above white walls. Keycard checkpoints every 10 steps. And people, ordinary-looking staff in lab coats and business suits, walking past her without suspicion. Because here, the horror didn't wear a mask. It wore a logo. VOS Global. She followed the map Lila had drawn. Down 2 levels. Through a biometric security zone. Past a corridor labeled simply, Operations. And finally, Core Server Vault. She stood in front of the last door. Slid in the capsule. The lights turned red. A countdown began. Security breach. Please stand by. No turning back. She yanked open the panel, found the uplink port, and jammed the capsule in. The screen flashed. Uploading. 40%. Emily gritted her teeth. 70%. Voices outside. Someone shouting. 85%. A loud beep. Download interrupted. Emily's eyes widened. No, no, no. And then the doors exploded inward. She hit the ground as a team of soldiers poured in. She reached for the drive, too late. A boot slammed down on her wrist. A man stepped through the smoke. Tall. Grey suit. Calm smile. Caleb Voss. He looked at her like a disappointed father. Emily. Or Emilia, as your mother once intended. You're more stubborn than she was. Emily spat blood. She was stronger than you'll ever be. He crouched beside her. She was weak. She chose love over legacy. You almost made the same mistake. But I can fix that. He signaled to the guards. Take her to Chamber B, full isolation. And bring me the drive. She was dragged away, screaming. But even as they shoved her into darkness, she smiled through blooded lips. Because she had seen it. 93% uploaded. Meanwhile, in Zurich, Dr. Lila Stein watched the blinking signal on her screen. The virus had made it in. But it hadn't finished. She closed her laptop, eyes burning. It's up to her now. Back in Facility 93, 2 days later. Emily woke up strapped to a chair in a cold white room. Her mouth was dry. Her arms numb. And across from her, Caleb Voss. He placed a tablet on the table between them. On it, a choice. Withdraw the virus. Give me the encryption key. Walk away with your life. Or watch the world burn, starting with the girl in room 14. He pressed play. On the screen, a child. No older than 10. Shaking. Wires in her arms. Emily's voice cracked. You're a monster. Caleb smiled. I'm a visionary. She looked down. Blood dripping from her lip. Hands trembling. Then. She laughed. Quiet. Hysterical. What's so funny? He asked. Emily looked up. You're already too late. He froze. The moment I was captured, she said, I set a remote signal through the capsule. A failsafe Nicholas designed. In case of interruption. She leaned forward, smiling now through tears. It finishes the job on its own. The lights flickered. Then everything turned red. Alert. Fenricore compromised. Helix mainframe breach. Auto-destruct sequence initiated. Caleb roared, lunging at her. But the guards turned. Guns raised. Chaos exploded. Emily ducked, slipping the restraints. Sprinting for the hallway. Fire burst through the vents. Sirens screamed. And through the madness, she ran. Not to escape, but to finish it. Facility 93 was burning from the inside out. Flames licked across the ceilings. Sirens howled like wounded beasts. People screamed and scattered through corridors that moments ago had felt sterile, untouchable. But Emily didn't run. She charged forward. Smoke thickened the air, stinging her eyes as she stumbled through collapsing hallways. Alarms blared, evacuate. System override. Destruction imminent. Each step pulled her deeper into the heart of the nightmare, toward room 14. She kicked the door open. The girl inside was shaking. 12, maybe 13. Her eyes dull and glassy. Monitors blinked around her. Dozens of cables dug into her spine. Emily rushed forward. No, no, no. She yanked the fours from the girl's arms. The girl whimpered, flinched, but didn't scream. It's okay, Emily whispered, voice cracking. You're not a machine. You're free now. She carried her out, past guards who lay motionless, knocked unconscious or already fled. Through the chaos, through fire and blood, she ran. But as they neared the exit, a voice boomed from above. You think this ends with you? Caleb Voss. He stepped into the hall, face illuminated by flickering lights. His shirt was torn, his hands bleeding, but his eyes still burned with that same, cold power. You've done nothing but delay the future, he growled. Helix isn't a project, it's an idea. Ideas don't die. Emily stood in front of the girl, shielding her. Neither does the truth. He raised a gun. And then... bang. He staggered back. Another shot tore through his shoulder. Behind him, Ethan Vale, limping, covered in ash and blood, but very much alive. Sorry, Caleb, he said, reloading. You taught me a long time ago how to shoot center mass. Caleb tried to speak, but collapsed. Emily didn't wait. She pulled the girl through the emergency tunnel. Minutes later, the world behind them erupted in fire. A blast so massive it cracked the ground and lit up the Berlin skyline. Facility 93 was gone. 2 weeks later, Geneva. The world had changed. Whistleblower documents leaked to every major news outlet. Names, evidence, video footage from inside Facility 93. Voss Global collapsed overnight. Arrests spanned 5 continents. The term Helix Protocol trended worldwide, and not a single government dared deny it. And Emily Carter disappeared. 1 month later, somewhere in northern Italy. A small cottage. Mountains in the distance. Sunlight through lace curtains. Emily poured tea into 2 mugs. The girl sat beside her, reading a book, smiling for the first time since Berlin. What's your name? Emily had asked her days ago. The girl whispered. Hope. It felt right. Emily still had nightmares. Still woke up gasping. Still remembered the smell of ash and the sound of Caleb's voice echoing down that burning hall. But she had done what no one else could. She stopped a global weapon. She freed the forgotten. She burned an empire to the ground. And now, she was free. Final scene: Nicholas Ashford's estate, months later. An envelope sat on the desk, addressed in elegant handwriting. To Emily Carter. You didn't just change the world. You reminded it what it means to be human. N.A. Beside the letter was a deed. Ownership: Carter Humanitarian Trust. Founder: Emily Carter. Dedicated to victims of war, corruption, and silence. because in the end Emily wasn't just the girl who helped a homeless man. She was the girl who helped the world. And the name Voss. It would never again be spoken without fear. Or without fire.